Sudan is on the brink of famine, and after months of conflict, people are struggling to get access to medical facilities. Aid organizations are raising the alarm because since the war broke out in that country, many of them have evacuated and haven't returned to the area because it's so unsafe and politically volatile. The only aid organization still in Sudan is Doctors Without Borders. And to discuss the extent of the humanitarian need there, I'm joined by Muriel Boursier, who is the Deputy Manager of MSF's Emergency Unit. Muriel, good morning. Welcome to the program. I was just reading the UN Special Advisor on Genocide Prevention, Alice Ndiretu, warning that Sudan shows classic signs of a country with an impending genocide, stating further it could actually already be happening. What are you seeing there?
Well, so as a humanitarian actor on the ground, what we are seeing currently is the complete distress of a population that has been suffering a very violent war for already 1 year now. This translates on a daily basis into violence. People have lost family members. The whole infrastructures are collapsed. People struggle every day to find food, water, a lot. It's one of the biggest displacement crises. The United Nations have announced 8.7 million displaced people, of which 6.7 million are displaced within the country. And so people are fled their homes, are living in very dire conditions, many times in makeshift shelters, in public buildings. And they struggle to access healthcare. They struggle to sustain their daily life. So that's what we can see. And they face also a lot of violence. They have been facing, and they keep facing a lot of violence.
Well, as the civil war enters now its second year, Muriel, we know that the two warring factions remain locked in a deadly power struggle. And since the conflict actually began last year, almost 15,000 people have been killed. We know that 8.2 million more have been displaced, and as you've just said, leading to one of the worst displacement crises in the world. And a lot of people going to other places that are also unstable. But when you talk about the lack of food and the lack of water, what kinds of cases, besides the injuries, which we'll come to in just a moment, just the everyday cases that you have to deal with? And I imagine things like malnourishment or dysentery or illnesses and sicknesses arising out of the lack of food and water.
Yes, so for instance, in our project in Central Darfur, in Zalenji, we are supporting the Zalenji Teaching Hospital. We have been starting our activities there last April, and definitely what we are receiving cases of malnourished children, being the direct victims of the very dire living conditions. There are also, of course, the regular malaria and peak season that will be coming, people having diseases in relation with their living conditions, being affected by poor hygiene conditions, very difficult access to clean water. So that's what we are seeing. And we are seeing that no humanitarian actors, very limited, we cannot say no, but very limited humanitarian actors are currently active on the ground. The United Nations are not present, and usually that's also under their umbrella that a lot of humanitarian actors, can work. So we really, the population is really in desperate need for aid, for support, for attention and direct and fast action to survive.
When we see the pictures coming out that animate what you are saying, that give dimension to what you're sharing with us now, it is truly, truly heartbreaking, Muriel. You're the last one standing, effectively, and you're dealing with a situation where acts of violence are sporadic, so it's not safe, which is why a lot of the other agencies have left. Talk to us about how practical it is for you to pivot, to move to areas, away from hotspots, or to be able to move as the population is moving.
Yes, so Well, obviously, the insecurity is not homogeneous across the territory. So depending on the area, there are areas where active fighting is still ongoing. You've probably heard of Al-Fashir currently, but there are other areas where insecurity remains, but a certain level of security allows, let's say, to be operational on the ground and to be working. We pay a lot of attention, of course, to the security of our teams. We engage with all warring parties, with all actors on the ground to be able to for our presence to be well known and well accepted. It's of course a daily work, and it's not something that is easy, but it's something that is possible because we are doing it. So we also do not understand why other actors are not able to do the same, to come and support the population there.
So what's it going to take to get that support? What do you need right now?
Well, what we need is a ceasefire would be the best option. But then, in any case, we need the warring parties to commit to their Jeddah engagement, to leave safe passage for the humanitarian aid, to respect the medical mission and the neutrality of health facilities. And then on the other side, we need the humanitarian actor and the United Nations in particular to scale up very quickly, urgently, their presence on the ground and the support they are providing to this population, to provide food, to find supply channels, to send teams to be present and to provide the desperately needed assistance for this population.
The situation is so fluid and so unsafe. If we think about places like Hissa camp, where there's violence there, not only do you have people who try and make it to these camps to stay there, the secondary trauma is, or I mean, it's not even the secondary trauma, it's just trauma upon trauma. Their belongings are looted, and if they go to hospital, the hospitals are looted. So, just in every aspect, these are people, families, children, and a lot of them, the walking wounded, who are, in a sense, just being abandoned in this moment. What is the risk that MSF might be forced to pull out, given, as you say, others have left? There is a call for more people, actually, to come back into the situation and fill the gaps, while the political resolutions are being made and calls for a ceasefire are adhered to, or at least hammered out between the warring parties. What is the risk, Muriel, that MSF would have to leave at some point?
Well, we recently, for instance, had to leave Wad Madani in Al Jazeera state because the conditions were not conducive anymore for our presence there, both due to obstruction from the government of Sudan, as well as due to insecurity and constant security incidents from the Rapid Support Forces currently in control of the area. So this is a scenario that keeps happening, but we are really committed to stay as much as we can, and we want to stay. So we will do all what is in our hands to remain on the ground and to support, and also to be the voice of these people who are the ones at the end suffering the violence of this war, and who are just victims of this war and have not other alternative than fleeing their homes and hiding where they can, looking for assistance, the little assistance that is available.
When we began speaking, or early in our conversation, we talked about the wounds, the ones that you can see, how you treat people in a situation like this. The ones we don't even have time for at this point are the deep layers of trauma, especially the trauma that children are witnessing in these conditions, or the mothers that are having to give birth under these conditions. And the other echo of this, of course, is what's happening in the Middle East, in Gaza, where there are similar experiences of a population that is under bombardment, or a population that is living in a perpetual state of violence. What are you seeing? You talked about the conversations and the interactions that your teams are having with these communities, with these, you know, with the refugees who are on the run. What are they saying, and what is the sense of the deep trauma that is currently being visited upon them?
I mean, I think it's so intense, so recent, so much violence that it's difficult to turn it, to translate it into words and to convey whatever they have been going through. Most of them have lost family members. They have been displaced, if not once, several times. They have lost all their belongings. They are just relying on whatever little job, little aid they can find across the city on a daily basis. The farmers were not able to harvest. The prices are skyrocketing. People have no cash to pay. Telecommunications are not available. They can't even be in close contact with their displaced family members. So it's a very difficult situation that that is even difficult to really fully represent throughout words. And obviously, people are quite desperate and tired of this already more than 1 year ongoing conflict. So that's what they share with us. Yes.
Muriel, we'll leave our conversation there. Thank you again for sharing an update on what's happening with those affected communities. You're the only organization still in Sudan working in some of these areas, and just sharing with us the scale of this humanitarian disaster, which is happening at this hour as we speak to our viewers. Muriel Boursier, Deputy Manager at MSF's Emergency Unit.